Hey, I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. Welcome to Bridges Live. You know, you can always reach me on Bridges Live and Dr. Paul, holisticscience.com. And thank you for all my sponsors and the people who support Bridges Live and the Black Coffee Communications that I've been having with some amazing panels on Saturdays and once a week. You can always see that on my YouTube channel, Dr. Paul Dyer Grandmaster, and you can see that on my YouTube channel and, of course, the social medias and things like that. But now I have my guest on the line. So, Dr. Please, Mehrete, please introduce yourself to my audience, please.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Dr. Mehrete Girmay. I work as an analyst within the Office of Health Equity at HRSA, which is under the umbrella of HHS, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, it seems like when we talk about the Black community, we need to specifically specify in the Black community, we know the women hold our families together.
Absolutely.
But we have not ever talked about the healing of the Black woman. So I want to talk about that. So what is your take on the healing of the Black woman in the Black community?
Well, first, I want to say that I'm excited that you're highlighting this issue, especially, it's a timely one, but it's one that has been pervasive and unfortunately persists through many generations. And like you said, the women is I like to believe that the men may be the head of the household, but the woman is the neck, and she is the guardian of the home, and she is the strength, really the backbone, the foundation of that home. And so it's key that everyone is on board and interested in supporting the Black woman. And that means Black women supporting Black women, Black men supporting Black women, everyone. I think there's much information and many memes even that says, and speaks to women being just minority women being underrepresented, lack of opportunities, just overlooked in general. And so, it's unfortunate that it's taking the issues that have now come about and come forth for us to recognize the strength and the beauty of the Black woman. I'm not going, this is not what I'm going to say may seem abrasive, but I think the Black men screwed up, and it is not a healthy Black man that's able to support the Black women, so they're able to be ostracized by the non-Black community. And that's something that is a sickness of the community itself. It's a sickness of Black men. I know that, of young Black men, of old Black men, of just a Black community. So I can only say I apologize to you, my sister, the Black woman, who has been able to take a brunt of so much and not yet been protected. And all people want to be protected and to have, safety and to have food and to have shelter, the basic common things of survival, and yet the Black woman has been left out of survival. And I apologize. Well, on behalf of all Black women, I would say thank you for that. And I think, I'm very fortunate, and I'll say this I can't speak for every Black woman, obviously, but I'm very fortunate to have been brought up in a home with a strong Black man that supports a Black woman, my mother, and, a brother, and just the community of men, even just growing up, cousins. So my upbringing, I would say, I'm very fortunate, and that may not be the case for other Black women. And so, again, on behalf of all women, all Black women, thank you for that comment and for recognizing that, sometimes within our community, we have things to work on. It's a beautiful community to be a part of. There's things that we have to address. But I think we're moving in the right direction.
So with your practice, so let's get right into the practice, because I don't like to give too much, but one of the things I like to do in Bridges and on all my podcasts is, one, create an understanding, give information, and hopefully with those two pluses, it brings people to an action. Now let's understand the trauma of the Black woman. How do you talk about the trauma of the Black woman?
Well, I'll say from a professional level, working within the Office of Health Equity, we look at it from, just the totality of the term. We look at what does health equity mean and how does it address, or how does this affect, rather, marginalized communities as a whole. And within that, we find a lot of disparities amongst African American women, as it relates to health, as it relates to social injustices. And so that's on the professional level. We look at that, we produce manuscripts. I have great colleagues that are also very much interested in the cause and highlighting these issues. And then on a more personal level, with my friends, just my girlfriends, just talking about these issues, we're very candid and very transparent with one another. And we talk about, what we're dealing with, whether it be in the space of our jobs. For some people, it may be their relationships, whatever it is, whatever they're dealing with at the time. And so I think it's so important that as women, we support each other. That's the key. As Black women, we speak on behalf of one another in a positive light. We shed light on each other in a way that is uplifting, because that's the key, really. There's so many of us that may be beautiful on the outside, beautiful on the inside, may have, be degreed up, have all of these great credentials, but if we're not pouring into one another, it really essentially means nothing. So that's why I'm very fortunate, again, to have strong women around me where, especially during this time, we not only check on each other on a personal level, how are you doing in your marriage? How are you doing in your career? How are you doing? All of those things. But also, how are you doing? Just you as a woman, as a Black woman, how are you feeling going back to work? As they're introducing phase 1 and phase 2, how are you feeling around that? So again, I think it's just important that we're open, with our communication, and also we back that open communication up with support.
Well, me and my wife were out having lunch just before COVID had hit, and our server was a young Black lady. And she had came to the table, and they do their spiel, can I help you? What do you want to order? And we had ordered coffee, and my wife had ordered water, and she said, I'll be right back. And I looked at my wife, and I said, I said to her, I don't feel well. She goes, yeah, I don't think the server's well. So we had connected with her energy, and I'm an empath myself, but we had connected with her energy, and she didn't seem right. So she came back with our coffee and water, and I did not want to say as a male to her, so my wife said, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she says, and my wife says, no, are you okay, little sister? And she said, and she just, her pad dropped and said, I'm just having a tough day. And we said, you want to sit down and let us pray? Can we pray for you? And we prayed, for her, and she started crying, and she started releasing some of the things that she was going through. Now, what I'm getting to my point is, I don't want to use the should, but are we able to, or do we just really need to address the women we pass and say, I'm here for you. You're not alone. Are you okay? Let's fix, I know I'm shopping, I know I'm eating, but this is more important than what I'm doing. Can we do that as a community?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to commend you both. I think it's so beautiful to stop what you're doing, in the sort of, you're busy having lunch and spending quality time with your wife, and, you sense something's amiss, and you ask this girl, to sit down. I think, to answer your question, absolutely. Why not? If you see another woman out, I think it's our instinct to sometimes react when you're met with someone that has an attitude, or they're coming across wrong. But I think it's so important that you stop for a moment and you just ask yourself, like, well, maybe they're going through something. Maybe they're just having a bad day, especially again with what we're dealing with right now in this moment. Women are listen, I do a lot of research around this area, and, again, I'm very passionate about this, but women are being affected. We are, again, there's a lot of women that have to still go to work in
Yes.
the midst of a pandemic. You know, there are a lot of women that are on the front lines. A lot of healthcare workers, the majority of healthcare workers are women. And these women are risking their lives and then in turn still having to come home and take care of a family, you know, and put their children's lives at risk. So you just never know what people are dealing with, especially Black women. And so I think the sensitivity of, especially within our race or, you know, our ethnicity, our culture, you know, our group, I think it just needs to be strengthened. And I see that happening, you know, I really do around, especially with the Black Lives Matter, you know, all of this movement that is really now, it's been out, and it's been an issue, but now it's being magnified, you know, at great length. So I'm hoping that this also will move us forward in the right direction.
I want to thank Dr. Mehrete for coming on to Bridges with me and speaking about this. And I want people to know that how can people get a hold of you if they have specific questions about, I'm struggling with something, where do I go? Because I also think whether it's a community of the Black community, whether the community of people, whether the community as a whole, we seem to be remiss of how to get help. So let's put you out there and let's put all of our beautiful people out there to say, hey, we're here to help you, but how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, for me in particular, I work as an analyst, but I have information. I'm privy to information that others may not be working with HHS. And so I'll definitely be happy to forward any guides or any information that people request. They can reach me through LinkedIn. I'm not on social media outside of that, unfortunately, right now, but they can find me on LinkedIn at the site and my first and last name.
If anyone has any problem, they can always contact me, and I can put you in contact and say, hey, Dr. Paul, I just love what she was saying. She spoke to me. And I always believe in testimonies. Testimony is treatment because we tell our stories and people hear ourselves within the story. So when we talk about the history of trauma and the history of the Black woman, what is the one thing that doesn't often get talked about? Because right now we know there's women that have been killed by the police that doesn't get any news. And it kind of bothers me, and I've put it out there, you know, like, you know, we know about the Breonna Taylor, but we also are not hearing about the Nikata Crawford, right? We're not hearing about I don't pronounce her name well, but the one of the Black Lives Matter activist, Alusa Toy. Yeah. And she was killed just recently, and nothing is being said.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think it's unfortunate. I think it's, again, it's an issue where women in general, you know, we're still fighting to be seen as equal. But I think within this right now, there's just so much going on that we're just trying to catch up, to be honest. I really would not, I just don't believe that, you know, as a community, we're overlooking, these strong, beautiful Black women. I think what's happening is it's just every day there's a piece of news that's coming out, and we're just trying to make sense of it while dealing with our everyday lives, while working, while trying to navigate, you know, just maintaining, you know. And so I think it's unfortunate that these beautiful queens are being overlooked to a certain extent, but I see a lot of people that are highlighting them. I know within our general community, amongst my network, we are highlighting them, we are talking about them, so their names and what they stand for will never be forgotten.
And I think we know the outside, and it's sad to say, the white noise wants you to forget it. And we know white noise, as far as the scientific term, means just nothing but a rustle. But we are talking about the space between our consciousness and our subconsciousness has been created into white noise that we are not connecting within ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's very true. That's a good point, yeah.
So with that disconnect, what are some of the ways that you see that you even do with your friends? I know you say you check in and the things that you guys do, there's got to be a practice. What are some of those steps that you would like to give to people to say, check in not only with yourself or with your partner, because you can have a screwed up partner and there's nothing to check in. So you need to find a person you can check in with. And I hope that's us. I hope that's you. I hope that's what we're doing. But how do we rectify that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think, like you said, especially during this time, as we know, a lot of the research is now showing that the COVID-19 crisis has actually, the domestic violence issues have taken, an increase, and it's shown an increase. That's what the data is now showing. And so it's unfortunate, right? Like you said, some people within their home are not offered that comfort in having a spouse or a partner and someone they can share the information with. But especially as it relates to the social injustice and racial inequalities, and really, to be honest, the economic injustices that are coming about now.
Absolutely.
You really have to have someone, if not many, at least one person that you can go to. And for me, what I've found, as a sense of comfort is talking to your family, and then, with your girlfriends, like you mentioned, having a circle. And it's not, I always say this, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So if you have a good circle of friends that you can talk about other issues with, we talk about other, stuff that pertains to just women, and, but we really do, especially during this time, we have our check-ins where they're just dedicated, again, to just how are you? And that's just the nature of our friendship. So it's really nothing that we cultivated at this point or due to this particular crisis. It's just in general. It's important that as women we support each other, that we reach out. If someone has not reached out and it's been a couple of days, check in on them. Even if it's someone that you feel may not need a check-in, send a text. I just received a text right before I called from one of my good girlfriends just saying, I love you. And,
that's powerful.
Yeah, and it's powerful, and I can't wait to see you when all of this is over, and that's the type of messages I receive on the daily, and that's the type of messages I send out. And so, if it takes writing a letter, sending an email, sending a card in the mail, whatever it is, people are dealing with a lot, and so you just really need to step outside of yourself sometimes and meet people where they are and send love.
What one of the probably the strongest black woman show out there is probably Insecure, and I'm not sure if you've watched it at all. But just recently, I think in the last finale, the women in the group they're having a disconnect. They're separating from each other, but yet one of their own, with the one that just recently had a baby, she ended up in a hotel, right? And they were like, we got to go find her. I think. My problem is that it should not take a disaster for us to come together. And in the show itself, it highlighted that postpartum depression is a strong thing for any women, anybody, especially when women have babies. I know I have 7 daughters, and you didn't know that, but people who listen to Bridges Live, I have 9 kids and 7 daughters. So one of the things, and I have 7 grandchildren now. So one of the things that I know is about postpartum depression, because I've had children and my kids are having children, and depression is a factor of life. But if you don't have a circle, like you said, to check in with, you will be lost and hurt.
Right, absolutely, yeah, and it's true. I watched the show as well, and I think there's so much to take from it. We look at it for entertainment, but there's a lot of messaging that's happening, throughout the show. And it also, unfortunately, sometimes will take a tragedy to bring friendships back together. And, it's unfortunate, but whatever it takes at this point, for people to be reconnected, I think the fear of what's happening around the world has, for many people, you'll see that, in the media, or you'll see it, just hear it with your friends. People are reconnecting with their loved ones, with friends that they haven't spoken with in years, just because there's this real fear now that's instilled in all of us. But you're right, absolutely. It shouldn't take that for people to connect. And so hopefully, as we move forward in our new normal, that people will now, appreciate each other a lot more. And again, send love and receive love, from your loved ones and your friends.
So, strong question here. In this new normal, and I love that phrase, in this new normal, do the black women do they need the white community to understand them, or do they need the black men to support them? Which one's stronger?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's an interesting question, but a good one. I would say, well, it's about equal. I think everyone needs to, let me say this first. I think everyone needs to understand the seriousness, that this is a real issue. And again, it's unfortunate that we even have to have a Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, Black Lives Matter. Like, the fact that slogan is there is telling enough.
Right.
Of course, we matter. We are human beings. But that's the times we're in, and so. Yeah, I mean, it's so important that everyone understands the value of the Black woman, that everyone understands, and that's including every race, every ethnicity. So, yes, that's the answer to that. But, just as important is the support of a Black man. I think there's so much power in that dynamic and in that relationship. You go so far with that support. And so, even speaking from my personal life, again, having, a good male in your life, strong Black men in your life, it will take you very far. But without that, void of that, it's a challenge, And so, I think both of those points, having, people that aren't a part of our community, the support and the understanding that, yes, indeed, Black lives do matter, and, we're going to have to keep saying this until it's understood. But at the same time, yes, Black men need to support Black women, and Black women have to support Black men. It's key.
I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Mehrete, for coming on to Bridges Live with me, Dr. Paul. And I'd like to know that people can always reach me at drpaulholisticscience.com, or you can email me at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com. And please reach out, touch someone. And if you don't have a circle, contact me. If you're listening to this, share it, like it, whatever you want to do in these social media times. I get it. But really, I want people to understand that you are not alone. I'm speaking to you, the Black woman. You are not alone. You are respected. I apologize. But yet, we're not going to do better until us Black men know that we need to be healed from the traumatization that we've been going through for hundreds of years. But stop getting out of your way, getting out of your norm, getting into a new normal, and understand that machoism is weakness. You need to ask for help, get help, so we can support our Black queens. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people?
Well, thank you so much. I think you've said it all. I wish everyone wellness and safety, and I hope that we're all praying for one another. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to Bridges Live. Remember, I'll see you guys again later. We'll be having some panel work later on Black Coffee Conversations that will be put out here on the podcast. If you have any questions, please comment, like, and then we'll talk to you later. God bless.